And she, both they're both
That's up here.
very well off, they have no children.
Individuals have made similar comments on the same item, then the chairman may limit further similar repeating comments. Individuals who submit documents at the hearing shall identify each document. Each document submitted shall be made a part of the official record of the hearing. Documents submitted prior to the public hearing will be provided to the commissioners and be made part of the official record of the hearing. Reading documents into the record are subject to a 3-minute time limit also. After all comments have been made, the chairman will close the hearing. Once the public hearing is closed, further public comment on this topic will not be entertained. If a planning commission meeting follows immediately after closing of the public hearing to deliberate on the hearing comments and to consider further action on this topic, no public comments will be accepted on this topic during that meeting. Commissioners may discuss an item and may ask questions of the presenters from the public hearing. I will now open the public hearing to comments.
I'd like to comment on the property that I live next to. It's a vacation rental, and I've worked nights and countless times came home to people parked in my parking spot who were already intoxicated when I had to knock on their door, ask them to move. They were mad at me, and here they were basically parked in my driveway. Not to mention when they had a cake party and rented the place out to some high school kids. They had a cake party until 6 a.m. going on under my bedroom window. Another time there was a boat trailer that didn't have room in the 2 parking spots that were allotted to them, so they just backed their boat right up into my bedroom window. It was actually touching the glass when I came home from work that night. And in every situation, it has been dealing with tourists that didn't have the respect that my neighbor I know would have had for me. And was shocking when I bought a place in a quiet, peaceful Holiday Island, residentially zoned, to find out that this was what I had moved next door to.
What address was that?
92 Beaver Drive.
72.
Oh, okay,
No,
it's on the
92
back,
Beaver Drive.
92 Beaver Drive.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's been my experience as a residential home buyer.
Can you give me an idea how long you lived in your home?
Going on 3 years in
3 years.
September.
About how many times do you think this
The place is
rented?
very popular. It's rented almost consistently every weekend during the season, maybe just a couple weekends in the summer that it's not rented. And during the high weekends, like 4th of July, it's rented during the weekday as well. About half the time people have been peaceful and quiet over there. The other half of the time, not so much. And there's almost, because it sleeps 8, there's almost always been more than 2 vehicles there. And I have the condo next door, so naturally all the overflow parking ends up being in my parking
So
space.
this is a condo.
This is a condo, yes, and it has been such a problem and such a headache and a complete shock to me. When I first went to meet my neighbor, I said, "Oh, I'm your neighbor, Sarah Larson," and they said, "Oh, we're just visiting from Kansas City," and I was surprised. So that's been my experience.
Lynn, is it appropriate to talk about the process now for people who may not?
Sure, we've been pretty freewheeling with the purpose for the hearing, so
Okay.
we can stay that way.
Well, you keep us on the straight and narrow now. One of the reasons that the city planning commission was set up was Holiday Island for 50 years has had short-term rentals, and they've never been regulated whatsoever. So by forming a city and the city forming regulations for requirements, there will be some teeth that was never there before. So there on the city website, there is the name of the owner of that property. They're required to have a local manager that's within 50 miles of Holiday Island. That is also on there. And also our code enforcement officer could be looking at things like that too. Am I right, Lynn?
That's
Correct me if I'm wrong. And so if you run into those situations again, first thing I do, if it was 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd call that homeowner. Because they can have their license pulled with that kind of reports of that kind of behavior.
If you're awake at 2 in the morning, that homeowner should be awake at 2 in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is an opportunity to have an immediate remedy for you.
Yeah,
Right.
so I hope that kind of explains the process. It's so new to everybody. It's new to us
In the
too.
past, this wasn't set up.
Right, well, what I understood is that it's illegal to collect tax dollars and have a business in a residential neighborhood. So that is where the conflict that I'm having the biggest issue with.
Okay,
And
now
I
I
understand
can,
Holiday Island is a vacation community, so, but still as a home buyer,
yeah,
that's my
Yeah.
conflict.
yeah, because we're all homeowners too, so we understand.
I'd like to address that comment.
Please.
The state legislator said that the cities cannot regulate short-term rentals any different than a single-family residence. So the issue of having a business of short-term rental is a non-issue as far as the state of Arkansas is concerned. We can't prevent it for that reason.
I see.
Okay,
You're saying that the state has made it basically legal to operate businesses in residential neighborhoods?
they've made it, yes, there are, home-based businesses that we have in our regulations, but specifically short-term rental says we cannot limit their business as short-term rental business in a residence. Specifically to short-term rental.
But by issuing a permit and reviewing that permit on a year-to-year basis, we can then take action if they didn't live up to the covenant, or not covenants, the ordinances.
Yeah.
The specifics of the ordinance.
Yeah, that's why this was started, because we didn't know how many short-term rentals there were. It was just,
Or where they were.
you know, where they were. And nobody knew how to contact anybody, so now, in order to get them accepted by the planning commission, we're making them place signs out in front of their house so that everybody knows there's gonna be a STR there. And if there's an STR there, you can go to the website and find out the owner, their phone number, their immediate contact phone number. So if you have a complaint, you can register it with them, us, the police department, the code enforcement. You know, it's just that the reason we're doing this is because it was just Wild West before. No one knew who owned what. You know, who was in charge of what, who was responsible. And this way we kind of get a grasp on what's going on, and the bad apples they don't get their permit renewed.
Can I ask you a question? So some percentage, a high percentage of problems have occurred at this address.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on why this one particular address is having these problems? Because we're not, I don't know, I don't want to say we don't see this problem, but I don't think we're hearing about this problem
Yeah.
in every case.
Sleeps 6 to 8 people, so it has at least 3 bedrooms and sleeping on the couch, so it can accommodate bigger groups. So it
Okay.
accommodates big groups during Bikes Blues Barbecue, there's at least 8 motorcycles over there that are in my parking spot.
Right.
So it's been just very stressful.
I'm sure.
Yes, yes.
Is it on Airbnb or Verbo? Is it?
It's on Vacasa.
Yes.
Because we understand too, that if you call them to complain, they stop renting the property until it's resolved. If it happens 3 times, because sometimes it could be in an allegation that's not. But if it happens 3 consistent allegations that are wrong, they won't book them anymore. It's just so you have one more person.
Yes, sir, I didn't mean to ignore you.
So, going with what you're saying, if somebody else is parking in your spot, because I'm in the condo also, like down the road, right? Can you legally have that car towed?
We don't have anything in the city ordinances for towing cars,
Okay,
But in the,
but you can have it towed. And maybe it'd be your bill, but probably not in the end.
I lived on the island also, and I know of one instance where somebody parked across the driveway of a house in my neighborhood. And that homeowner came out and did have it towed. I know of that instance, and I don't know the end result of that, but I think you would have the right If somebody's parked in your driveway or across your driveway.
Maybe as long as those spots are adequately marked, maybe that would be an issue too. So another question with this regulation. Which sounds really good to me. Does this apply both to single homes as well as multi-units like condos?
It applies to any residence that's conducting business as a short-term rental.
And the HOA bylaws or the can put some additional regulations on that, on the HOA can put some additional regulations on that.
If you're talking about a condo that has an HOA, likely,
Okay.
but the city can't,
City can't, but the
High City
HOA
can't, but maybe if it's an HOA, they may.
Why,
Sure.
why can an HOA regulate against it, but a city can't?
Because HOAs are considered differently than city governments. HOAs are private entities. City government is public entity. HOAs and POAs have a lot more power over their property owners than the city does.
Yeah, because it's contractual when you sign your contract for purchase that you'll agree with the homeowners association.
You're a member of an organization.
So if you got enough of the neighbors in there to agree to alter the covenants, then it could be banned.
Yeah.
By a majority vote of the neighbors.
Get yourself elected to the board.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you're talking about the covenants of the HOA,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Would that be part of the covenant or could that be part of the bylaws?
it'd be likely it's your HOA bylaws, how you conduct business, how
Because
it's.
if you do the covenant, then you go through a very expensive
Yeah,
process.
the
Right.
the covenant affects more than HOA, it would affect, if you're talking about the covenant on your property, that's all the owners of property in the unit. Not just the HOA of what's in that building.
So you could amend just by amending the bylaws and that could address that issue.
Absolutely.
And the other thing in the process of applying for these permits, they have to say how many parking spaces that they have. And they're only supposed to have the number of vehicles there for the parking spaces that are allocated to that particular property.
And aren't they supposed to have the documentation in the unit itself
Yes.
about that
Yes.
as well?
Yeah, oftentimes there's more than two cars, two
Yeah.
vehicles.
Well,
And I
that
would-
property, the 92 Beaver, their claim is they have 2 parking spaces.
Yeah,
So let's see,
And I would encourage them to, in that case, I would encourage them to park their boat and trailer down at the parking lot down by the marina.
Yeah,
Well,
well, I just feel like after work, it's not my place to have to go knocking on the door.
yeah,
and
police,
Right, right, so
Yeah.
call a number.
go out of my driveway.
Let them do it, yeah.
I don't know a lot about HOAs, but I'm assuming there's a board of the HOA and everything is done.
Yes, when I first moved in and realized that I had bought a place next to a vacation rental, I wrote a letter to the board and the owner of the property is on the board of the, it has been on the board since the 80s, so. They just said, we're sorry, Sarah, but he's been a board member since 1985 and, we're just.
okay.
We understand where you're coming from, but there's.
He's only one vote though.
Yes.
Maybe not.
Check the
You know what their bylaws
because
say.
Like in the bylaws, there's a limit to how long a person can be on the board. And a lot of these boards circumvent that because somebody else wants to be on it.
Right,
So if somebody else wants to be on that position, they can't be on it again.
And if that vehicle is trespassing on your property, we do have a 24-hour police service. We've contracted with Carroll County and we've got 2 full-time deputies that are 24 hours just for Holiday Island.
So it's the sheriff, not the police, right?
It's the sheriff's department that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carroll County Sheriff's Department is our law enforcement arm.
and they're always here?
There's just 2, so I don't think they're covered 24/7.
Yeah.
I don't know what their hours are, and they vary that for the reason of, not letting people know where they're at, so they can't be, doing things when they're not around.
Yeah, cause oftentimes, when there's a problem, and I live in the west side of the county too, and it's an hour before a law enforcement officer can get there,
Oh, yeah.
and that's unacceptable when you have an emergency.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we agree.
Does the conditional use permit require that their parking spaces be adequately marked?
No,
Okay.
because it doesn't. It wasn't considered
Okay.
when we passed it.
Where can you get a copy of the ordinance of the things that they're supposed to adhere to?
The easiest place is to see them on the website,
Okay,
and it's, the City of Holiday Island website. And if you go up to the top and find governance, and slide down to ordinances. Then there's a table here for all the 23 and 24 ordinances. And our ordinance for this case is 23-16, establishes short-term conditions. And you click on that link, and it lights that up, and you click it, and the ordinance comes up on your screen. And from there, you can download it or print it.
okay.
The ordinance that let's see, that's the short-term ordinance. Yeah, there's a business license ordinance that we passed after that. It's 23-20. That'll be in effect and required for short-term rentals when they renew next year.
When this comes up for renewal, would require an adequately marked parking be added to that?
We would certainly consider that. The problem that we have is, the city doesn't own those streets. And I don't know if the city has privilege to tell someone you have to put paint on your street. Or signage or anything like that. We don't own those streets. They're HICPC. So that is a roadblock that we have.
Is it possible for the homeowners association to do what you're asking? To mark this, to mark,
Probably, yeah.
yeah,
Well, the lines, there used to be lines painted and now there's not even any lines. In fact, we thought about just painting lines and painting the numbers on there just to help stop it, but
The problem.
yeah.
Yep.
You know, but, you know, there again, if it was regular neighbors there, you would never have a problem.
sure.
But when you gotta retrain a neighbor every weekend,
Yeah.
it's a problem,
Yeah.
and it wears on you, you know, there is no good reason why we have to sell out our cities so that people can make money off of it, that's all they're doing, and there's places, if they wanna be in the lodging business, they can buy a hotel in Rich Springs. They could they could have bought a farmhouse, you know, it's shut down and turned in to long-term rentals because they can't get short-term rental people to go stay there.
Right.
It is insane that we're allowing this in our community. It is absolute insanity that a few people wanna make some money off our neighborhoods. So they wanna turn it into a brothel, and I'm telling you, there's a certain amount of prostitution that goes on in short-term rentals. If you don't think so, just do the research. They're used for prostitution, they're used for spring break parties, where they pile up people in there more than can fit. Drunk all night and music, and it may not bother you because your head is not 6 inches from it like hers and mine is at night. We're 6 inches on the other side of the wall from all that going on. And you don't know who they are. When someone moves in, you can check their background, you know who they are. If they're a sex offender, guess what they have to do? They have to notify every neighbor. If some freak wants to rent that property, all they need is a cell phone and a credit card. And we are selling out our safety and security so that somebody can make a buck, and it's crap. It needs to stop. Somebody here needs to have the guts to stop it in the town and ordinance against it, and let the state sue you.
Well,
Somebody else is gonna sue you when somebody gets hurt, when somebody goes and kills somebody's kid. Or rapes somebody's grandmother, which is gonna happen, it's not if, it's when it happens. Then there's gonna be another lawsuit. And somebody will have the guts to stop it at that time. Right now, nobody does, because everybody's making a little money on it that's doing it. And they're not doing it at their neighborhood. I can guarantee you, wherever Mr. Bob lives, he lives in a fancy neighborhood where it's not allowed. But because someone can only afford to live in a condo or chooses to live in a condo by wanting a simpler lifestyle, they get told, hey, guess what? You gotta have this business next door. And you gotta retrain your neighbor every weekend because we're not gonna tell them what to do, and if we do, they're not gonna listen. It's crap. And it needs to be stopped here by you guys denying these permits. You 6 people have the power to say no. You do. And I wanna see you do it, and if you don't, then we need to find people that will do it. Because I don't think it's fair. It's not fair to everyone else that lives with it because they're not here. They're not here. And it's disturbing to think that there could be a killer right next door and we don't know who they are. It happens. Don't think it doesn't. You know, it's just, somebody's gonna have to put their foot down and be the ones to stop it. You know, we can deny those permits. Maybe we can't say, oh, you can't do it in our time, you know what we can do? Not approved, not approved, not approved. And I think that's what you guys should do, because we've had a problem with it. If no one else had a problem, they can go on with it, but I'm gonna tell you, it's a problem. And by ordinance, if it's a problem, it has to be denied.
I sympathize with your problem and we've explained that the state legislature has approved these
The
things.
state legislature's not sleeping 6 inches from these folks.
And you,
Your
And if they were-
HOA is gonna have a lot more teeth.
Yeah,
It's gonna have a lot more influence in what happens. And really, that's, in my opinion, because I'm the vice president of our HOA. And I'll be possibly president next year, but anyway, the point of it is that that's gonna have a lot more teeth and a lot more power than any public government is going to have. And unfortunately, I mean, that's.
well, they vote on it, so they're the ones that have the power, you
Well,
five
you
people have the
know,
power.
if they're raising heck, just call the police or call.
They don't show up, and why should we be forced to call the cops every weekend that something's going on and we gotta?
Well, does it happen every weekend?
No, but if it happens 2 weekends a month, that's too many,
Well, how many
You know?
times does it happen?
a lot, in 3 years, more than she can remember.
It's twice a week, a month on average.
Yeah,
There's a
but
problem.
we've also given you. We've given you a method to get past the
Comply,
problem.
sure.
To
We
complain.
don't wanna be brushed under the rug, we want something done about it tonight, where this will not be approved. And if it is approved, then it's gonna be a problem.
Tonight, we're giving you a phone number.
Well, we don't want a phone number, we want you guys to vote against it, is what we're telling you, we want you to have the guts to stop it for us on our behalf.
Okay, I understand.
And if you guys can't, then we'll have to go to the next level, whatever that is, and we don't wanna do that, it's costly. It's gonna waste everybody's time and money, the city can't afford lawsuits like that, no more than we can, but you know, what we also can't afford is our devalued property value, because there's a business next door.
Let me help you with your appeal process. It goes to the city council if we do something you don't agree with.
Okay,
And then it would go to a county court.
sure,
So the next step, if we approve something you dislike and you have, I don't know how many days, it was 15 or 30 days to appeal that to the city council. City council's meeting is next Tuesday night for the first one.
well, let's just hope we make the right decision tonight and don't approve these things, because it's a problem already, and you're just gonna open up a can of worms by approving it is what's gonna happen. I see it, not just here, there's gonna be other people that are gonna be unhappy, just like we are, because we live in a house and we have a hotel next door. We didn't buy a room in a hotel, she bought a condo in a condo building, not a hotel. Like if she went to the farmhouse and bought a hotel room, she'd certainly understand why that was going on and couldn't complain about it. Then you buy a house in a neighborhood, you expect it to be a neighborhood and neighbors, not every other Tom, Dick and Harry every other weekend over there. You know, it's just not fair. And there's other places folks can make money, and if they can't afford to own a condo, then sell it.
Well,
It's not even their main residence, it's just a vacation home for them.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
You know this person's name, correct?
yes, that owns it,
Robert
Yes.
Dembski?
yeah.
Have you talked to him?
I have written letters to our condo association and have talked to him in person
He-
and asked him to label the parking. He knows, he's heard me, I've introduced myself to him and know him and his wife. From when they say they come twice a year usually.
And what does he say about your complaint?
Well, he just doesn't really say anything, he just avoids the questions and avoids the subject. And changes the subject, pretty much, doesn't wanna talk about it. Because I know, because he's on the board of our condo association, I know he's read my letters. So.
Okay.
So he knows where I stand and
Okay.
he just doesn't really say anything about it, because they're there twice a year, they don't really have to see me besides. Running into me perhaps twice a year, it's easy, they're, making enough money to cover their condo association dues and their taxes and everything, so.
It would really help us if you would try to quantify when this happened, take pictures, whatever, so that we know, so that we'll have something to go against them. And like I said
We
earlier,
actually do. have some-
that's why we started this. No one knew anything before,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we started this. We're trying to get a control of it, I mean,
Well,
things wouldn't have changed if we hadn't started this and they had to post
Sure.
the sign.
So let me ask you guys a question, what would make you not wanna disapprove this? Like, for what reason would you want to approve this short-term rental? I'm just curious.
I want to approve it so that we know who they are and where they operate their business and make certain that the taxes are collected properly, so the city benefits from that. But also so that we have a contact, that we have a local person, someone within an hour, and he apparently lives in Eureka Springs, is supposed to be here and on site. That'd be the first person I would call. And then beyond that, taking a permit away would give us more teeth in a courtroom about pursuing problems in the future.
And to do that, if I could interject, if you could document every problem you have from this day forward. At this time next year, when we come back and we have to approve him, or he makes his application again, and we have the documentation, then we can take the type of action I think you're looking for.
Well, but you're hearing it now, and you guys are still
But you don't,
approving it, you know?
I don't have pictures, I don't have the dates. Yes,
Is there somewhere on the application where they have to get signatures of the neighbors?
They do
Because okay, I
No.
thought in some
but
communities.
if you had dates and the number of times we called this number, the number of times you've complained to the short-term rental agency, if we have all that documentation, then we would have a leg to stand on in a court of law if we had to go that far.
This is going through numerous states, okay, and they've all supported the idea that a person is allowed to rent the property. And the person who owns that property has that right. The only real way to circumvent that is through the HOA. Now, if the person abuses that, then public entities can intervene. But until that happens, public entities don't have a lot of teeth because the courts, the Supreme Courts have supported their right to do that.
And I think one of your best remedies here is when this happens, you contact the short-term rental agency and register your complaint with them. And at some point, they'll quit listing that property.
Yeah, because what you're asking us to do, not approve it retroactively because of the things that have gone on historically, not the things that have gone on since they've been approved.
I see.
How often are you gonna review these complaints and review the application? Is it yearly or?
It's my recollection that our ordinance says it could be pulled at any time. So, if the complaints are, one event might be enough to cause it to be pulled.
Okay,
So Don suggested you call the rental firm, the marketplace, whatever they're called. Vacasa, but also contact, and document, you contact the local contact, you contacted the owner, and then our code enforcement officer, because he's our civic person that handles our code, our ordinances. The law enforcement gets involved also, but.
And I would register every complaint with the HOA.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
I sympathize with you, and I think the only way you're gonna get satisfaction is to go through the steps.
It's the other thing that by the city doing this, then that allows HOA then to know who is renting these properties, because without this,
Yeah.
the HOA really doesn't know who is and who isn't. This is the HOA, some enforcement, to find out who these folks are and what's going on. So the other question is, that I've got for you guys, is if somebody tries to circumvent this by not getting a permit or not getting a license, what's the penalty?
It's my recollection is $250 a day.
And not purposeful.
Starting from what day till what day?
Whenever it's discovered, whenever we say stop and deceased. Whenever we discover it.
when did you guys enact the ordinance of having to apply for the conditional use permits?
I'll get that for you. We did that ordinance. And well, I think it was like in September, if I recall, but I can pull it up.
September 23.
Sounds, yes. Number 16.
And was there, 90 days that they were supposed to, from the time you enacted it?
No, we said, and we have until July 1st before penalties start.
This year?
2024.
Yes, so July. So this is enacted on September 19th, 23.
And this process is actually designed so that there are some consequences for these bad actors, which before has never happened, I mean, at all. So, yeah, the permit can be pulled if there are documented, you know, incidences of misbehavior, that kind of thing. So I really sympathize with the frustration that you're going through. I can only imagine, yeah.
And Lynn, can't the code enforcer go over there and give them a
Yes.
give them a citation about parking violations?
Yeah, if they're
On the
parking,
spot?
if they're parking on the street and that kind of thing, but we can't give them a citation for parking in somebody else's driveway.
That's true, or another parking spot.
Right,
that
it's
takes
whatever they
away-
do in the public place, on the
That's
public
true.
right of way.
Cause your parking lots, your parking spots, those are paid, right?
Yes, Pete.
Yeah, cause ours are bad.
But if they've illegally parked a boat, you could give them a citation on that.
It's probably, yeah, my guess, because of that neighborhood, it would be parked in the street
Me too.
or on the street partially or something.
Well, that's what they do, when there's three and then we're both there, they park on the street.
Yeah.
Then it's a hazard.
And we all have cameras now with phones with cameras, so take a
Yeah,
picture.
we've got some
You've got pictures.
Yeah, already, yeah.
I misspoke on the penalty. It's on the screen. It's not less than $250 nor more than $500. So it's a single event of them being fined or assessed a fine for having a short-term rental without a permit.
But then there's a second and a third.
Yeah, and it could go up to $1,000.
Yeah.
And that's per day or per rental?
Per occurrence.
Per occurrence?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other public comments? Then I'm gonna close the public hearing comments and, do we wanna read these, Lynn, or?
No, that'd be the regular meeting process.
Okay, all right. Then we'll close the public hearing comments. This public hearing is adjourned. Okay.
I feel great.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
When does your guys actually meet?
Well, usually it's in the springs, we without for all the going on.
We meet on Memorial and everybody weekends. So.
Are we ready?
Yeah, bang the mail, gavel. I'm start the look for the.
So.
Bang the gavel.
Okay. Okay, welcome to the regular meeting dated March 12th, 2024.
Bylaws.
I call this meeting to order. We've had the pledge of allegiance, so we'll forgo that. Mr. Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Chairman House,
Here.
Vice Chair Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Childers,
Here,
Commissioner Rao,
Present.
Secretary Dumas here, all present.
Okay. Everybody has seen the agenda. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
aye.
Okay. We have everybody's read the public hearing minutes from February 21st, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve, and kudos to the secretary for capsulizing everything.
Yeah. Second. We have a motion and a second. Do I hear any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of February 21st, 2023?
I'll make the motion, we approve the regular meeting minutes from February 21.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we don't have any reports. We don't have any old business, new business. Deliberations on the public hearing comments regarding the conditional use applications. Do we want to read these, Lynn?
Well, I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, let's.
Well, and I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead with your question first, maybe.
Well, my question to the chair is, can I ask the secretary, who's more knowledgeable about all of this than us? What our status is, I mean, in terms of approving these at this point in time. We're approving them, and then once we get complaints, we'll withdraw them, right? Isn't it a little difficult legally for us to decline them at this point in time?
No, I think if we had sufficient evidence, we could probably say that's not going to be approved. if you recall in the, I didn't bring that up, but the commissioner's brief where I put in, the application and then the vetting that I do, that if the information there isn't correct, or it's not valid, or it doesn't apply, or there'd be some technical reason why we shouldn't approve it, we could just, not approve a certain ordinance or certain regulation, certain resolution to approve a permit. We could turn that down for those reasons.
Can we ask that homeowner to provide additional documentation for us?
We could.
Would that
What
be?
kind of documentation?
No, I've been inventing this as I go along.
Okay.
Would that be helpful though, for somebody to have to come back a second time and say, well, there's been problems in the past, but we're gonna clean up our act?
I think first off, we have to show cause.
Yeah, that's my worry too. I don't wanna
And
get this,
without cause, I don't know how you can turn it down.
yeah,
And cause has to be evidence.
yeah.
I would think a video would really help.
A video, pictures, whatever, but
Yeah.
with nothing,
I know,
there's no cause to turn it down. How are you gonna explain to these people that without cause,
yeah.
you just arbitrarily denied them their permit?
If you had police reports of that
Don't have-
nature,
Some sort of documentation.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
then
video,
you've got nothing.
police reports, I think you would have cause.
Yeah, cause I don't, we can't make decisions that get the city in any kind of bind, and that's what I'm also looking at, I sympathize greatly, but I also know we need documentation,
I agree and I sympathize greatly as well, but I honestly think going forward, the fastest remedy for any of these people is our code enforcement officer. Who works for the city, not the county,
Mhm.
and will document every time you call him, he's gonna make a report and it's gonna be well documented.
Yeah.
And then he can come to our meeting.
Yeah,
Well, what he would do is he'd make a report, it would go in the file of this application. And then if on his recommendation, or maybe because the evidence is so strong, he gets the mayor involved, the mayor or his representative, probably the code enforcement officer, would recommend pulling it. And that's the process.
yeah, good thought, good conversation, thank you.
And I misspoke earlier too about the appeal time. The appeal time frame is 15 days. So if there's a reason to appeal our decision to the city council, it's within 15 days, you have to make that appeal. And then it would be heard at the next city council meeting. So it's in place. Okay. The other thing I was going to comment was that we've had, I think these are numbers 56 or so that were to the point of approving. And they're all the same rules. They apply to residents, the city council, or the city ordinances apply to residences just like they do to the short-term rentals. And none of the property owners have objected to any of that. They've gone without problems. And the last meeting we had a couple people speak, maybe three, about a specific residence. So that was a one-time occurrence. We heard more tonight about a specific residence. So, obviously the problems can exist. We don't ignore that. We can't ignore it. And the way sound carries, depending where they're at, you might sound like they're next door, but they might be halfway across the lake. It's just the way we are. So we'll have to deal with it.
And I think some residents are better suited for short-term rentals than others. I mean, I think that condos are definitely a problem. I mean, parking is tight, walls are thin, and
There's shared outdoor living spaces,
yeah, I think that, it's one thing to rent a house that's up in the woods all by itself, you do what you want. When you're next door to a condo, you gotta have a little decency to be considerate of others, so. But. Any further discussion, commissioners? Okay, why don't we read the resolutions, Mr. Secretary?
Can we read the resolutions?
And,
Or do we need a motion to approve them and then
Okay.
process?
Do you have a motion?
Let me
Do
check.
you have a motion to approve?
Yeah,
Do you have a second? Second,
May I amend the motion to read it by title only?
yes,
Yes.
you may.
Okay. CUASTR or application 24-10, 2412. May I read? 240126-1 for property at 168 Holiday Island Drive. 240126-2 for property at 78 Beaver Drive. 240202-1 for property at 8 Bandy Drive. 240202-2 for property at 108 Hawk Drive. 240202-3 for property at 47 Oak Point Drive. 240205-1 for property at 1 Oak Drive. Property application 240206-1 for property at 49 Cable Rock Drive. Application 240206-2 for property at 45 Skyview Lane. And application 240206-3 for property at 92 Beaver Drive.
Mr. Secretary, did you call the roll?
Chairman House,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Childers,
Aye.
Commissioner Ralph,
Yeah.
and Secretary Dumas. Aye. All in favor?
Resolution passes. Okay. Next, we'll consider the resolution for HICPC R24-30 resolution establishing street addresses for unit 129 block 1 lot 2D UBL 129-1-2D lot 3A UBL 129-1-3A and lot 3B UBL 129-1-3B in Holiday Island.
I looked at the map and the information that Lynn sent us, and I mean, it's logical that those would be the addresses that we would put on that location. And it may not be pertinent to all of this, but is there any, can you give us any history or prediction of what's gonna happen with those?
Yes, the owner of this property, his name's on the bottom of that plat, Mr. Terry Presley, he's a builder on Holiday Island. Has purchased those lots, lot 2, which is a little smaller. Lot 2 is the portion of the map that comes down vertically north to south, 129-2 through A through D. And lot 3, A and B. And he subdivided those properties some time ago and he built houses on 1-2, A, B, and C. And now he's starting to work on 1-2D, the one that's on the corner. And so in order for him to get a building permit, he needed an address for that. So in our ordinance, says that the 911 administrator signs addresses, but since we passed that ordinance, learned that it's different. But in light of that, I went to the 911 coordinator and she recommended that these addresses 18, 14, and 10 be assigned to these properties for reasons she had. I suggested 10, 12, and 14, but she wanted to do it with a broader range.
Then were these, does Terry Presley still own all this or?
Yes, he does. Well, I don't know.
Originally,
I don't think he owns any of these houses anymore. I think they're
Okay.
all sold.
I didn't think so either. I thought he
Just the empty lots. on
Yeah,
the
okay.
corner.
Okay,
But you anticipate they're gonna be developed, he's gonna be building on.
Yes,
Good.
he's started development or digging on this lot, but he hasn't put any work in the ground because he doesn't have a permit yet.
these are right next to the timeshares.
Mhm.
Yeah, the timeshares are back here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this back corner.
Right,
And the house is gonna face Shields. And a little discussion, I think I don't know if you had it with me or others, but there's no address he could assign on Fairway Drive anymore because of the way they were done in the past. In fact, it's kind of weird because whoever did it in the past, this corner lot right here has a 1 Fairway address. And then right next to it up in the corner is 2 Fairway or something at the top, so he did the 2, or it's 1, 3, it's 3 around the corner. But then 2 is clear at the top, and then it's 2 A, B, C, and D coming down the row. So this house he's building here is gonna exit out on Shields, and a Shields address is appropriate for doing that.
But those 3 he built were two A, B, and C.
Yes, for mailing addresses.
Okay.
And the 911 administrator wanted to chew me a little bit for doing that. She says, we're not supposed to use letters and addresses. Didn't do it.
Not right.
The city didn't do it. So that's why the city's in charge of it now.
The addresses across the street have A, B, C, D on them too.
And I don't recall, so I can pull it now. I don't have any more of that here.
Yeah.
She's not there, Stan, so.
So anyway, she plugged in 10, 14, and 18. So that works for me. So I can spread this out if it gets changed.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, I'm glad to see it's gonna be developed.
yeah.
So I make a motion that we accept resolution HICPC R 24-30, establishing street addresses for those unit block lot numbers.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Smith has seconded it. Would you call roll?
Mr. House,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Childers,
Yes.
Mr. Ralph,
Aye.
and Mr. Dumas, aye. All in favor?
Okay. Resolution passes. I'll open it up for public comments with a 3-minute time limit. Any comments? Any commissioner comments?
Our next meeting, this next on the agenda, never mind.
Okay,
I'll be
How
quiet.
about a commissioner question? Doesn't 911 have the authority, the final authority on setting addresses?
She said that, I don't know if it's state law or county regulations, that the city is responsible for assigning street addresses
Oh,
inside the municipal limits. They assign them outside of municipal limits, but the city, because we're a city, the city is responsible for it.
okay.
In our ordinance, and that responsibility comes to the planning commission.
Okay.
Do you know how many we have for next time?
I have 11, I believe, on the list
Okay.
so far, and, the deadline was today, but I bend the rules a bit. I'll open the mail tomorrow morning, and then I submit it to the paper by noon. So. The office administrator wasn't here today. There may have been something in the mail today I haven't seen, but I'll wait till tomorrow morning. So, the deadline, the question was asked, when do they have to have this done? They have to apply by May 14th to get it on the June agenda to avoid a July 1 penalty. So. And I, if I'm doing the work, is gonna rely on the public a lot to help me know who's not got them.
Well, that's what I was
Who's doing
gonna,
it?
I was gonna ask, but it sounds a little like a schoolyard kind of thing. Are we gonna put out something that says we have now issued all of the short-term rentals that we know? If there's one in your neighborhood, contact the city.
I didn't want to make a public plea like that,
I was gonna say, it sounds.
but I have contacted all of the marketplace facilitators, VRBO, Airbnb, Vacasa. There was 2 others by email. I got response from one and gave me the list. The other said, we won't give out that information, but we'll contact them through our email system. And I got confirmation from one property owner, they were contacted, they forwarded the mail to me. Basically took my letter and reformatted a little bit. But I haven't heard anything from Airbnb or VRBO yet.
Okay.
and we mailed out cards to every residence.
We mailed cards to every property owner of improved property in Holiday Island.
Right.
Did you all get them, by the way?
Nice
Excellent.
I did.
Nice question.
Done.
Sure.
Can I take your comment?
No, my comment.
Yes.
So, if the ownership of the property changes, does that, permit continue on to the next owner?
No, the permits are not transferable.
They're not transferable, okay, so somebody buys property in September and they wanna do this. They can go through the process again, how long does that process take?
Well, they make an application to me by the first Tuesday, it'll be on the following month's agenda.
Should be about 2 months.
It's about 30 days minimum. It could be 45 days, if they came to me on Thursday, it's not gonna happen until May.
Right,
Because the April agenda is set tomorrow at noon.
so a new property owner would have to come in and make an application and start the whole process individually.
Mhm. And then technically after July, they probably shouldn't operate their short-term rental until they have a permit.
Okay, so I don't rent my properties, but let's say next year I said, hey, maybe I wanna do this.
Mhm.
So that I would go ahead and send out an application, let's look at the process.
Mhm.
Okay, if we don't have any more commissioner comments, Mr. Ralph? Nothing? Ms. Schmidt? Ms. Childers? Mr. Dumas?
No,
Nothing. Our next regular meeting will be a public hearing on April 9th, 2024 at 6 P M. The regular meeting will follow the conclusion of the public hearing. We don't have any special meetings. We don't have any workshops. I declare this meeting adjourned. This stop button. Okay. All right.
Thank you for your time, thank you.